Today, I delve into the gripping narrative of Episode 5, named Family Business, in the riveting saga of the Vince McMahon documentary. This installment skillfully navigates from the twilight of the Attitude Era to the emergence of the Ruthless Aggression Era, spanning the tumultuous years from 2001 to 2008. What captivates me most is that it transcends the mere chronicles of Vince McMahon and the realms of professional wrestling history, morphing into a reflective narrative that excels in storytelling, a hallmark of a compelling documentary experience. Surprisingly absent from this enthralling tale are the shadows cast by the Chris Benoit tragedy, a dark chapter that cast a long shadow over the industry, and the intricacies of the Linda McMahon Senate campaign, a pivotal force that steered WWE towards a PG era amidst controversial allegations of misused funds. These omissions, while notable, do not detract from the tapestry of significant events that have shaped McMahon's legacy. While the exploration of backstage controversies such as sexual harassment takes a backseat in this episode, a prudent move to avoid a repetitive narrative of vilifying Vince McMahon, the focus on his sagacious words on resilience, overcoming adversity, familial expectations, and embracing failures resonates profoundly. These are lessons that reverberate beyond the squared circle and offer valuable insights for entities like All Elite Wrestling. What sets McMahon apart is his audacious penchant for risk-taking, coupled with a remarkable ability to glean wisdom from failures, all while orchestrating professional wrestling spectacles that evoke a myriad of emotions. His enigmatic charisma is undeniable, yet beneath the veneer lies a complex persona, one that could be deemed as that of a sociopath. In the realm of family business, Vince McMahon emerges not just as a titan of the wrestling industry, but as a multifaceted figure whose journey unfolds with cinematic flair, mirroring the dynamic storytelling prowess of the legendary Elmore Leonard. In a candid moment, David Shoemaker unveils a pivotal revelation from a Playboy interview where Vince McMahon unmasked the shadows of his past, hinting at a harrowing history that echoed with abuse inflicted by his stepfather and chilling allusions to incestuous trauma at the hands of his biological mother. As the narrative shifts back to McMahon, a raw vulnerability emerges, painting a stark picture of his tumultuous childhood, a landscape marred by strife, discord, and unsettling whispers of incest that have left indelible marks on his psyche. Amidst this murky past, McMahon's resilience shines through, an inspiring testament to his unwavering spirit in the face of adversity. His words, laced with the echoes of past battles, resonate with a defiant resolve. When you are 12 years old, getting the crap beat out of you, if you are still standing, you win. When it comes to looking back at the past, throw it the fuck back there and move forward. McMahon's unyielding gaze fixed on the future, starkly contrasting the shadows that haunt his past. In a deft shift, Shane McMahon steps into the spotlight, his journey from the sidelines to the squared circle etched with a myriad of roles, from referee to ring announcer, each stepping stone a testament to his relentless pursuit of earning his stripes. Within McMahon's empire, Shane emerges as a formidable presence, a gatekeeper to the enigmatic Vince. The narrative takes a poignant turn as Stephanie McMahon, a scion of the McMahon dynasty, reflects on her journey amidst the tumult of professional wrestling. Her recollections unfurl a tapestry of controversy and audacious storylines, from a bizarre Vegas wedding to unsettling portrayals that straddle the line between entertainment and discomfort. Picture this unsettling scene. Amidst the glitzy Vegas lights, a bachelorette party takes a sinister turn as HHH, in a vile act of manipulation, drugs Stephanie's drink. The camera captures the chilling moment as he spirits her unconscious body away in a car, the neon glow of Sin City casting a macabre shadow over their unholy union. As the narrative unfolds, the ceremony commences in a haze of deceit and violation. HHH, a dark figure against the Vegas backdrop, grabs Stephanie's face, manipulating her lips to utter, "I do," in a twisted ventriloquist act. The air thick with a blend of unease and disbelief, the audience witnesses a mockery of matrimony, where consent is a casualty and violation takes center stage. This segment, a dark ballet of manipulation and toxic masculinity, evokes a spectrum of emotions, from discomfort to outrage. The echoes of this disturbing portrayal linger, a stark reminder of the blurred boundaries between entertainment and exploitation that permeate the world of professional wrestling. After the controversial Vegas wedding segment, a disturbing clip surfaces featuring HHH making a crass comment about the frequency of consummating the marriage. This angle, a mix of dark comedy and toxic masculinity, sparks a range of emotions. While some may find it humorous in a twisted way, others see it as cringeworthy, highlighting issues of sexual assault, misogyny, and toxic masculinity in a troubling light. Moving forward to the aftermath of these events, in the early 2000s, Stephanie McMahon enters the ring amidst chants of "slut" from the crowd, showcasing a troubling dynamic. Vince McMahon's elation at the audience's participation and investment in Stephanie's villain character aligning with HHH during the Attitude Era raises concerns. It becomes evident that Vince prioritized profit and ratings over the well-being of his daughter, revealing a business-driven and potentially sociopathic nature. Stephanie McMahon reflects on her compliance with her father's wishes during her younger years, striving to be a trooper. Clips of controversial segments flash by, depicting instances of Chris Jericho forcibly kissing her, Stone Cold Steve Austin tearing her shirt off, and The Rock derogatorily calling her a slut in the ring. Furthermore, a segment where she is kidnapped by The Undertaker in a sacrilegious crucifixion emulation unfolds. Stephanie's acknowledgement of her father's influence on these ideas, while recognizing the era's differences, adds a layer of complexity to the discussion. Throughout the interviews, a recurring theme emerges where participants attribute controversial actions to playing characters or following Vince's directives out of fear of job loss or stunted career progression. The retrospective lens reveals a mix of fondness, amusement, and discomfort surrounding past events, with many wrestlers navigating a fine line between personal convictions and professional obligations in the world of professional wrestling. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon often collaborated, and Vince orchestrated their storylines to spark their romance. But when they decided to date, Stephanie had to seek Vince's blessing, which he always granted for Triple H. When it came time for Stephanie and Triple H to tie the knot, they considered hosting their wedding at a wrestling pay-per-view to cash in on the spectacle. Stephanie wasn't on board with that, and Vince saw her reluctance as selfish. Just 6 days before their wedding, Vince faced off against Stephanie in a brutal street fight. Many family members viewed this as vindictive, including Linda, who warned Vince that if Stephanie ended up with a black eye, she'd seek a divorce. After all, no one wants their daughter sporting a shiner in her wedding photos. Linda McMahon shares her perspective in the documentary, revealing how she never felt comfortable as an on-screen character. Her role was often the voice of reason amidst Vince's chaos. The family dynamics were rife with drama, and Vince expertly tapped into that cathartic storytelling, building characters with intense emotions that resonated with the audience, a lesson all elite wrestling really needs to learn. Next, we hear from Trish Stratus, who recounts how the match between Cyndi Lauper and Wendy Richter, where Wendy snagged the title from the Fabulous Moolah, ignited her passion for wrestling. It was empowering to see women in the spotlight, but she quickly realized that entering the ring in the early 2000s meant embracing a hypersexualized image. Trish reflects on her past, with a mix of laughter and discomfort. She played Vince's mistress and embraced outrageous storylines, including moments where she wanted to be spanked in his office and gave him back massages. There was even a storyline where she drugged Linda McMahon, leaving her wheelchair-bound and paralyzed, while Vince shamelessly made out with Trish in front of his incapacitated wife. In another jaw-dropping segment, he took a gift intended for Linda and handed it to Trish, cementing his role as the ultimate villain. Trish acknowledges they were all playing characters, using humor as her coping mechanism for the discomfort she felt. The documentary doesn't shy away from the infamous segment where Vince had Trish stripped down to a tiny black thong and bark like a dog. Trish admits it was a humiliating experience, designed to provoke disgust among viewers. Sharon Mazer, author of Professional Wrestling, Sport and Spectacle, sheds light on the context behind these segments. While Vince exploited Trish's degradation for shock value, he was simultaneously pandering to a predominantly male audience. He was giving the audience a titty show. That as Sharon speaks, we see footage from that era, capturing the frenzied reaction of the crowd as Trish undressed under Vince's command. All this build-up culminated in a monumental match at WrestleMania 17, Shane McMahon versus Vince McMahon. This event is often hailed as the greatest WrestleMania of all time, and is considered one of the finest productions in professional wrestling history. The grand stage was set at the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, pulsating with the energy of nearly 68,000 fervent fans, ready to witness the pinnacle of the Attitude Era unfold. The air crackled with anticipation as the drama between Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin reached its zenith, culminating in a moment that shattered the very foundations of the era. In the heart-pounding third match, the Hardcore Championship triple threat erupted into a whirlwind of chaos and carnage. Raven, Kane, and Big Show clashed in a symphony of destruction, with Raven's shopping cart arsenal setting the stage for mayhem. The battleground spilled from the ring to the backstage labyrinth, where steel met flesh in a brutal ballet of violence. Glass shattered, walls crumbled, and golf carts became weapons of war in a relentless pursuit of victory. Kane's daredevil dive off the stage sealed his coronation as the Hardcore Champion, leaving a trail of wreckage in his wake. The seventh match, a street fight for the ages, pitted father against son as Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon engaged in a brutal dance of retribution. With Mick Foley as the impartial referee, the ring transformed into a battleground of familial strife. Shane's relentless assault on his father, with ruthless precision, sent shockwaves through the audience. However, the entrance of Trish Stratus and Linda McMahon escalated the turmoil, igniting a chain reaction of events that spiraled out of control. Betrayal, resilience, and a stunning reversal of fortune unfolded as Shane overcame insurmountable odds to emerge victorious, symbolizing a triumph of will over familial discord. As the night crescendoed towards its zenith, the Tag Team Championship match, aptly named TLC2, epitomized the essence of high-flying, high-risk warfare. The Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudley Boys clashed in a symphony of steel and flesh, with tables, ladders, and chairs becoming instruments of both destruction and triumph. Bodies soared through the air, crashing through tables with bone-jarring impact. Each competitor pushed themselves to the limit, sacrificing their bodies in a symphony of chaos and glory. In a breathtaking finale, Edge and Christian seized the championship belts, etching their names in the annals of wrestling history amidst a chorus of splintered tables and broken dreams. The night culminated in a seismic showdown between The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin for the coveted WWF Championship. The ring became a crucible of agony and ecstasy as the two titans clashed in a battle for supremacy. Blood flowed, bones cracked, and allegiances shattered as the drama unfolded with raw intensity. Plot twists and betrayals punctuated the match, culminating in a stunning revelation that left the audience reeling. Austin's shocking heel turn, fueled by a steel chair and a fateful alliance with McMahon, redefined the landscape of professional wrestling. In a moment of reckoning, Austin emerged victorious, claiming the WWF Championship amidst a storm of controversy. There are many wrestling critics that point to this as the end of the Attitude Era, because Vince was demonstrating that because he owned WCW and ECW, he can do whatever he wanted, but also in the WWF storytelling. Vince and Austin were always enemies, so why would they come together like this? Before I dive back into this documentary review, I want to touch on All Elite Wrestling. I did a video yesterday discussing what they can learn from the Vince McMahon documentary. The biggest takeaway is the importance of building characters. Vince was a master at creating despicable and outrageous storylines, which made audiences eager to see him get his comeuppance, like when Shane faced off against him at WrestleMania. Another crucial aspect was Vince's consistent use of family dynamics in his storylines to build toward that match. This is vital because in AEW, we often see wrestlers gain momentum only to disappear for months. In contrast, the McMahon era emphasized keeping characters in the spotlight. AEW can also learn from Vince's mistakes. Later in the documentary, it covers the XFL and his various restaurant ventures, highlighting how embarrassed he felt during interviews about the XFL's failure. After shutting it down after just one season, Vince shifted his focus to WrestleMania 18 and the dream match of Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. His mentality was always about what was best for business. AEW has faced similar struggles. For example, in April 2024, they had 3 shows: Battle of the Belts, Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor, and AEW Dynasty pay-per-view that could have been lucrative. Instead, CM Punk's interview about his firing in August 2023 overshadowed everything, drawing negative attention to the company. He didn't take accountability for his actions, like roughing up Jack Perry, which is clearly assault. Rather than focusing on improving the product, Tony Khan had Edge go on television to express his happiness with AEW, a move many fans and critics deemed desperate. Then, they aired surveillance footage of CM Punk confronting Jack Perry, which felt vindictive and reminiscent of how WCW used to grab attention with low-quality tactics during their decline in the 2000s. It painted a poor picture for AEW, especially since they've been criticized for favoring smaller wrestlers over bigger ones. This situation highlighted that wrestlers can misbehave without consequences, reflecting badly on the company. Imagine if they had built up matches like Battle of the Belts, which should have been headlined with Darby Allin versus Samoa Joe, right after Darby and Sting delivered a critically acclaimed match at Revolution, Sting's retirement show. What if they had addressed the issues with Ring of Honor and created a compelling pay-per-view card? They could have headlined Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor with money-drawing matches like Chris Jericho versus Mark Briscoe or Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher in a captivating 2 out of 3 falls match. They had a golden opportunity during WrestleMania weekend at the Liacouras Center in Philadelphia, yet they drew less than 3,000 fans in a 16,000-seat arena, with tickets going for about $100. Then there was AEW Dynasty pay-per-view, where they could have focused way more on Swerve Strickland versus Samoa Joe during the television tapings. However, they were overly featuring the Young Bucks, which were hurting the ratings. They also had the legendary match between Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson at Dynasty, which is considered one of the best of the year. So what if they had built up a rivalry up way better to create momentum for that event? It's crucial for all wrestling promotions to recognize that they're in the business of wrestling and that making money should be a priority. They need to push through challenges and negative perceptions, just like Vince McMahon does. What stands out about him is his unapologetic resilience. As he famously said, when it comes to failures, you look over your shoulder, shrug it off, and focus on the next educated risk. That's the essence of Vince. He takes big risks and has faced many failures, but his success speaks for itself. For instance, the reports about Ring of Honor's acquisition vary widely, from $4 million to $40 million, but it's clear that AEW hasn't seen a return on that investment. If they focused on revitalizing ROH in response to their failures, they could take a page from Vince's playbook about learning from setbacks and improving. Furthermore, In response to the CM Punk controversy and criticism, Tony Khan should have used those 3 April shows to showcase why AEW is the best, knocking everyone's socks off. The next part of the documentary covers the Sable lawsuit, where she sued for $110 million for sexual harassment, claiming she felt degraded. It's noted at the end of the episode that this was settled out of court. While discussing the lawsuit, they showed clips of Sable stripping in the ring from the 2000s. Vince McMahon, during an interview, said he didn't have her do anything degrading at all. This is disturbing. Either he's delusional, a compelling liar, or living in a huge state of denial. Sable was later rehired by WWF and had a storyline where she had an affair with Vince. Sharon Mazur, in her interview, pointed out that Vince has plausible deniability. Once he started playing the Mr. McMahon character, it gave him the freedom to do whatever he wanted, even if it involved angles hinting at sexual harassment or women sleeping their way to the top. As long as he claimed he was playing a character, it was his get-out-of-jail-free card. Many feel Vince was vicariously acting out his affairs through his characters. He understood that the best characters are simply your personality turned up to 200%. During an early 2000s Playboy interview, when asked about his affairs, Vince said, "The sex was terrific, but emotionally, I regret it." Paul Heyman hit the nail on the head when he said the only mistress Vince McMahon had a monogamous relationship with is the WWF business. That's 100% true. Paul continues, saying the WWF is his love, his soul, his master. The documentary then touches on Vince's failed business ventures, the WWF going public, the XFL, and buying WCW. It doesn't mention that once the WWF went public, Vince had other bosses and had to discuss wrestling ideas and angles with them. This shift affected the quality of the product because he had to take ideas that might have been detrimental. For instance, the 24/7 title was introduced in the late 2000s to boost ratings, but it was a bad idea. R-Truth ended up winning it 54 times, making him the most decorated champion in WWE history. When Vince talks about buying WCW, he admits he wasn't excited. He knew it was inevitable. After a brief celebration on a private plane, he moved on to the next big thing. I appreciate that mindset. Celebrate briefly, then focus on what's next. It's a testament to his resiliency and self-control. The documentary also discusses the XFL's failure. It gained attention due to marketability and wrestlers, but many felt the product was terrible, like professional wrestling mixed into football. Viewership dropped drastically after the second episode, falling below 30%. During an interview, the host pushed Vince's buttons about the XFL, but he didn't lose his temper on camera. He made it clear that he takes educated risks, is willing to fail, and learns from those failures. He emphasizes the importance of letting things go, which resonates with anyone who has faced setbacks. The old WWE saying goes, you get one shot at life. Grab it and give it everything you've got, screw everyone else. This approach is valid since many people only look out for themselves, and moving on from failures quickly is key to success. Another point of failure was buying WCW, which many believe stifled competition within WWE. Without rivals like TNA, NJPW, and Ring of Honor being legitimate threats to WWE, the quality of the product suffered for years. After the XFL flop, Vince discussed the idea of Hulk Hogan versus The Rock at WrestleMania 18 with The Rock. The Rock was all in saying, I fucking love it. This exemplifies Vince's mentality. After investing in failed ideas, it's better to pivot to smarter risks. This is inspiring, as it shows his ability to take brave risks and overcome insurmountable odds. Despite his flaws, Vince embodies the American dream, working hard and taking educated risks that can elevate you financially. The final part of the episode discusses Vince's philosophy on firing and rehiring talent. He doesn't hesitate to bring people back if it means making money. Like when he brought Hulk Hogan in for WrestleMania 18 or hired Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman as general managers despite their past rivalries. This reveals the depth of his business mindset and his ability to turn enemies into assets. The documentary concludes with the ruthless aggression era. Vince held a meeting with wrestlers, looking for the next big star after Stone Cold and The Rock. When Kurt Angle called out any wrestler backstage for a match, John Cena stepped up and responded with ruthless aggression, showcasing his passion to become a star. This era emphasized realism, with wrestlers using their real names and moving away from shock value humor. Cena incorporated his rapping style, while Eddie Guerrero's I lie, I cheat, I steal persona drew from his childhood struggles. This era highlighted that to embrace the American dream, sometimes you can't always be the nice guy. Another example of a wrestler from the ruthless aggression era is the controversial Chris Benoit. Due to the horrific murder-suicide, he doesn't deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame or spoken of positively, alongside any wrestlers who've exhibited terrible behavior. However, Benoit exemplified hard work. He wasn't about comedy or silly angles. He was a serious technical wrestler who stayed true to himself rather than relying on shock value. John Cena almost got fired, because he lacked a character. But when he began rapping and infused his personality into his persona, it propelled him to stardom. As he gained popularity, he had more opportunities to work with Vince McMahon, who started mentoring him to help him evolve into a better superstar. The episode closes with highlights from the sixth and final installment, where Vince had to step down due to multiple sexual harassment allegations and the Janelle Grant lawsuit. Overall, this episode was digestible. As I mentioned, it didn't feel like a history class on WWE. The documentary effectively captured the controversies surrounding the company and the duality of Vince McMahon, the person, and his larger-than-life Mr. McMahon character, which often comes off as a sociopath and a sexual predator. They did a good job illustrating how these lines blur and how many excuses were made for his behavior, claiming he was just playing a character. Many wrestlers acknowledged that while they engaged in controversial angles, they made a lot of money doing so. It raises the question, is it worth selling out? On the other hand, Vince is undeniably a successful businessman who takes significant risks. His bravery in believing in his ideas is inspiring, even if he clearly exhibits sociopathic tendencies, prioritizing his business over everything else. Looking at his family life, it seems to reflect the same mentality. He often used his family in controversial angles, likely indifferent to the emotional scars. He probably believed it toughened them up and enforced the idea that everyone must be involved in the family business. This brings up the question, was he into shocking angles for the sake of money? Or was it a way to cope with his own traumatic upbringing involving physical and sexual abuse? The psychological insight into Vince McMahon is fascinating. He's a polarizing figure in professional wrestling, undeniably important, yet with a controversial legacy. You can view him as either a creative genius who revolutionized entertainment or as a sociopath and sexual predator.